Today, I have an advisement on 10 things to know and be aware of when shopping for a grand piano. Hi, this is Ted Barsley with Alamo Piano Galleries. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and also look for us at alamopianogalleries.com. You can shop our store. We have a nice internet inventory location there, and a lot of the pianos that are talked about here on the channel, there's more information there, and there's also some sales information. And also, if you haven't, or if you have an idea for a video, or you have any questions or comments, go ahead and list them down below, and we'll get back with you. We like to interact. A lot of video ideas come from those comments. And as I mentioned, today is just 10 kind of overall things you want to kind of be aware of. It's nice if you know about them before you begin your grand piano shopping. And these are things that come up, and it's kind of interesting when I was doing research and putting the list together. It's actually the things that you need to know is kind of how the sales presentation goes. And I'm wondering if one leads to the other because it's piano people that are putting these things together. But really, it does explain a lot because these are things that the salesman's going to need to know, believe it or not, to help you. And not to help himself, but to help you and land on the right instrument and answer all your questions. So the first thing is you have to understand why you're shopping for a grand piano. Who is playing it? What are your needs? What are your goals? Is it you? Is it someone in your family? Or is it someone else? Are they asking you for advice? And is it for a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced player? And a lot of times, I've often found that the person that is actually purchasing the piano doesn't always play the piano. And I think that's where a lot of the apprehension in terms of buying a high-ticket item comes into play, is that, well, it's not really for me, I don't know much about it, and I'm not going to learn much about it after the fact because someone else is going to be using it. But at the same time, I don't want to make a completely ill-advised or a bad decision. And that's every parental or advisor's fear, is like giving bad advice or making a bad decision. So, what kind of music are you playing? Are they going to be playing in a home, in a venue? Is it going to be someone just learning music? Or are they going to be performing? Is it like going from intermediate to advanced or from beginner to intermediate? So a lot of these things have a lot to do with what kind of use the piano is going to have. And a lot of times it's best to have the actual purchaser and the player there because they should be set on something of a realistic budget. If there's any kind of true communication going on about a piano, they are expensive. The initial cost, they can range, there's really not much of a limit to how much you can spend on a piano. And then again, there isn't any set minimum price. Almost everything has its price. So part of it is like, if this piano is only $500 and it's a grand piano, how much is it going to cost to fix? And that is another thing. If you're out to buy one on your own, a lot of times used pianos may have perfect brand name recognition and all that, but it's actually a piano that's being sold to below wholesale price because someone's buying it for the frame and the steel and the idea of a piano because they're going to remake it or put a new soundboard in it and all that kind of stuff, actually remanufacture the piano. The other thing is, do have a conscientious idea, if not an exact measurement for how much space. And that would be number 3. The first one was, again, your needs and goals. Number 2 is going to be budget. That's your cost. And keep some reality to the budget. Understand that there's going to be some kind of maintenance cost, $200 to $300 maybe a year to tune it once or twice, depending upon your likes. Also, if it does need repair going into it, and also moving and delivery, if part of moving it around might be something you have to consider. If you're an artist and you're moving around a professional piano, you're going to have a crew. So do measure your space. Know exactly how much space, so you know you're going out to look for about a 5-foot piano, a 6-foot, a 7-foot, or anything less than that or more than that. And also remember to add about 2 feet for a bench and a person playing it in the environment so that there's enough space for breathable space. I mean, just for ergonomic comfort. Number 4, Do your research on brands and models and explore well-known brands. And I don't think there's much of a better-known brand than Steinway & Sons. There's also Yamaha, Kawai, Bosendorfer, Bechstein. There's a lot of German and Austrian names. Baldwin is a reputable name, but their pianos are not made in the USA. They're no longer considered American-made pianos. It is an American-named piano. And a lot of the names that people are familiar with are kind of not really in the manufacturing business anymore. There's been some new names that have come up, and there's a large number of pianos that are manufactured under the Samick brand in any one of the numerous names that they own. Same for Pearl River. And there's a number, Young Chang is another manufacturer. There's a lot of very well-known brand names from the last 30 to 40 years that were not known before. So explore the brands, and you'll find that there's also what are considered, and this goes back to the first question, what level, different tiers of pianos. Tier 1 would be the best pianos in the world you find on competitive concert student stages. For competitions, Tchaikovsky, Chopin competitions, those kind of things are going to have usually 3 or 4 of the top concert grand pianos available. Those are recognizable names. Also, what kind of names are commonly used amongst professionals, and that's where you're going to catch a lot of Yamaha and Kawais and a ton of Steinway users out there, and the Steinway's a very recognized brand name. And do be aware that all of these recognized expensive tier 1 brand names have expensive prices to go with them. So there's a lot of the pricing information is kind of reflective in the name. However, most piano manufacturers do manufacture a tier 1, and which is a concert stage type of piano, and they also do manufacture home models. So there's a lot of consistency with the manufacturers and the different levels of pianos that they do produce. Do read some reviews, find out what maybe some of your favorite artists use. If you're a player and you follow a certain player, the chances are you're going to want to play like their kind of piano or their kind of style. So that's another thing. And do inspect whatever piano you have. That's going to be number 5 after brand is going to be inspect the piano carefully. And if you don't play and you're the buyer, get someone. Find a technician, and it's good to find as many people as you know about pianos, and it may take you a little while. If you're really interested in this one piano and you know 3 or 4 different players, meet them at the store, have them all play it. May not all be at the same time, but at least you'll get some valuable feedback. And even if they don't know one another, if they start telling you sort of the same things about it, well, then that's probably useful information. Overall condition, look for signs of damage, wear, and tear. Also check out the action, the keys, and the hammers. Ensure the keys, they all play correctly, everything responds and goes back like it's supposed to. And I don't want to go too far into these next 2 items, but the soundboard and the pin block. You want to check for cracks and primarily in the pin block. A cracked soundboard, I'm not going to go too much into detail on that because I know a lot of pianos that are beautiful sounding, playing, great instruments that have cracked soundboard. I know a guy that was actually wanted this one piano, and you could see daylight through the soundboard. It was an old Steinway. Cracked soundboards, broken soundboards, as long as they are not buzzing, as long as they are not vibrating against any of the ribs on the backside or causing any instability in the tuning or in the response of the playing. Cracked soundboards is part of the medical history of that piano. It doesn't really have an overall effect. However, a lot of the old standard way of selling a piano was to put the fear of having a cracked soundboard and a cracked pin block into someone buying a used piano. So don't do that. You better buy one from me, because none of mine will have a cracked soundboard and none of mine will have a cracked pin block. That's where all that comes from, the old school selling standards. And that leads us to number 6. Consider the age and the history, and there isn't an existing like a mileage report, odometer statement, or a medical report, or even a medical insurance claim report on pianos. If there were, there would be a lot of interesting stories. Older pianos are going to require more maintenance, and the newer ones may have better technology and feature. Primarily, a lot of the pianos are now starting to get some type of space age plastics, or what do they call them? Polymers inside them, carbon fiber. Kawai's one of them. There's also Mason and Hamlin puts in the W&G carbon fiber, and even Yamaha has some of those polymers in the backside on their sustained parts of their actions. More and more piano manufacturers are going to, and I don't like to use the word plastic, but I do because it's funny, and plastic in this day and age is high-tech polymers, and it's not really what we knew as plastic in the 50s and 60s. They're actually space-age materials that are far more precision-oriented, and you're going to start seeing more and more of that in probably pianos as time goes by. Do ask about the history of the piano, and do remember that there is not really, when you're considering the age, there isn't any kind of true value in that, Beethoven's grandma had this piano, or Liszt played a concert on it, or actually tuned it, or had it tuned, or something like that. Those things don't add any value. They don't add any extra sound quality or anything like that to the instrument. It's just a way for someone to perceive a higher value, certainly when they're selling it. Do play the piano, that's number 7. Try before you buy. That's generally kind of an unwritten rule for a lot of musicians. I know acoustic guitarists are that way, electric guitarists, a lot of keyboard players, but certainly piano buyers is like, I've heard so many times, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in the store, I will never buy a piano without playing it myself ahead of time. I'm probably one of those that would say that, but at the same time, I also know for a fact that if you ordered a brand new piano from any one of the major manufacturers and had it drop shipped to someone's house, had it set up and tuned, they'd be happy with it. Most of the manufacturers produced 100% picture perfect pianos when they come out. And in this day and age, I am still a firm believer in all manufacturers. If you are producing something as intricate as a piano and it's brand new coming out the back door of your factory, it's really, really hard for that thing to be completely junky, because there's got to be at least some years of life left in it. If it's from a reputable manufacturer, I can promise you it's got to be a decent machine. With that, understand the action so you know what it is. What type of action is it? I mean, if it's a Steinway, they have their action. Yamaha has their own. So does Kawai. Almost each manufacturer has their own. However, a number of manufacturers do use well-known manufacturers' action as well as their shanks and hammers inside, so that having a type of action that is not manufactured by the manufacturer of the piano is quite common in the piano world. There are a number of manufacturers that put Renner actions in their top models. Some of them use Renner hammers or Renner shanks. Other ones use the Schwander action, which has been made, I think they've been around since like 1810 or 20, something like that. So there's a lot of Erard actions. I don't know if they show up in any other pianos other than Erard's. To my knowledge, I'm not familiar with that. And so do understand the action and check for the feel and the responsiveness. It's a mechanism that translated, depends who you talk to, but basically it translates your keystrokes to the string through the hammer and the action. Some teachers, theorists, pianists, composers, and they believe that you can actually transmit the pulse of the person to the string, through your fingertip, through the hammer, and that is where the creation of music supposedly comes from, the inspiration with touching the keys and making that connection with the string. There is something about becoming one with the vibrating strings in an open harp or a harp section of the piano. Yeah, you can become one with an instrument, and it is truly remarkable. That's part of the bonding process. If you don't bond with the piano, please don't buy it. Don't consider it, because you're not going to want to play it, you're not going to practice on it, and you're not going to grow. Number 10, don't forget ongoing costs. They need to be tuned, maintained. Some of them may need things right off the top. And I always like to go to Spinal Tap way and go to 11. And I thought up a number 11 in this instance, and it's ask questions to avoid mistakes. So ask questions like, I hear all the time, does Does it come with a bench? Does it come with delivery? Can you put it upstairs? What about the tuning? Is it tuned when it shows up? And is there a warranty? These are all valid points. These are great questions to know about. And everything that you've ever considered when you're making a major purchase is like, how does this process work if I'm going to buy a piano? Ask those questions. And so that you know up front as you're looking, or before you even consider looking, you kind of know what the process is. You come in, you find something, you say you want to buy it. What's the process? Because you don't pick it up and go home with it. It's got to be delivered. And a lot of times there's always, when you negotiate, you have the price, everything's finalized. That's when people start asking, well, my brother's a mover. Can he bring it and deliver it and save that charge? As long as he's a authorized dealer, so that there's not a problem with the warranty. There's a lot of things that happen, and that's why a lot of times people use third-party deliverers that are bonded and insured, so that they know everything is done according to the way it's supposed to be done, so there isn't some kind of problem. Usually there isn't, which is the other thing. Always make sure you're dealing with some kind of reputable dealer, or you bounce any ideas off of a reputable dealer. It's nice to do one-stop shopping, as opposed to I'm buying a piano from this guy, I'm hiring these guys to move it, and I got an old buddy across town that said he can tune it for me. I'm not saying those things are impossible, but I'm saying as a major purchase, there might be some frustrations that go along with that, and the timing may not work out the way that you want, but there are some great deals to be had, and I cannot say enough about grand pianos. When people come in, don't always assume that used means less money, because again, there's different tiers of pianos, and if you're looking at brand new prices and comparing them to used prices, pianos have a much longer life than an automobile. Most people wouldn't consider buying a 10 or 15-year-old car unless it's, or a 20-year-old, unless it's a classic. Those are perfect age for buying a piano, and in fact, a lot of the ones we sell are older than 10 years old, and it's hard to tell the age of a piano. If it plays and sounds and performs beautifully, it doesn't really matter what year model it is. So with that, bear all those things in mind. And number 11, yeah, ask questions, and some of them can be like, what's the resale price in like 2 to 3 years? And I won't hold you to it, but if I'm paying $15,000 now for a used piano, what's it going to be like in 3 years? Well, you might be able to use this piano for 3 years and sell it and end up having it cost you not that much over, say if you sell it for 11 or 12, then you paid $4,000 for 3 years worth of use of a $15,000 or $20,000 instrument. Anyway, if you have any stories, those are always nice. And sometimes the stories are prone to try to influence the price, and that's part of that history. That's part of that mystique. And what makes things valuable is when there's a settled deal. That's what, mark to market, and it's been bought and sold and paid for and delivered, and everybody's happy. That's what everyone likes. Until then, I will be here to answer all your piano questions. I am Ted Barcelou with Alamo Piano Galleries, and we look for you down the line in more videos.